After many months of work, I released a video called The Signal Void and Perseverance Mills Connection. That same day, the new Buried Echoes tale was released and almost immediately shredded my theory to pieces. Now that I've digested the story buried in the Langston mine, I want to revise my theory. This is the Rudiger project and Wintermute connection. This is your final spoiler warning for Signal Void, Buried Echoes, Wintermute, and the Forsaken Airfield update. If you enjoyed this video, please consider commenting, liking, and subscribing so I can keep making videos like this. To start things off, yes, there is a connection between the Rudiger project and Wintermute. The roadmap for the expansion has stated this since the very beginning and still says it now. However, I don't believe the connection will be essential for the end of Wintermute, nor will it be directly mentioned or acknowledged by the characters. We will see the connection, but it will not play a part in the story. Also, if at any point you are confused about the events of the Rudiger project or what Rudiger's machine actually was, there is a playlist linked in the description that will help you better understand the story of the Far Territory. Considering this is a long video, expect to hear inconsistencies with my voice as I am recording this voiceover over multiple sessions. Also, please excuse me for reusing a voiceover audio clip from the previous video, which I recorded while recovering from C-19. Finally, do take this entire video with a grain of salt. This is all speculative, so there is a high chance of me being wrong. Now on to the rest of the video. First, let me summarize my original theory from the original video. Keep in mind this is a theory and as of now is very incorrect. Seraphim is 100% responsible for these outbreak events. The Signal Void experiment would allow for a discrete contamination event to occur without anyone knowing it. Everyone except for Rudiger would eventually get sick. Once this experiment wrapped up, the researchers left, leaving behind the machine. Someone, I suspect Rudiger, would take the various experiment logs and other evidence and would prepare to bury it. Seraphim conducts another experiment on the remote, completely forgotten town of Perseverance Mills. This time, since the experiment took place in a public place, they enact a quarantine and promise a cure. Astrid, working at Seraphim, would come into contact with a resident in Perseverance Mills and would begin the process of stealing the cure and bring it to the town. With most of the transmitters being jammed by the bunkers, Rudiger's job was done. The island would have a difficult time communicating what was happening, therefore keeping most people outside of Perseverance Mills in the dark on what was going on. Right off the bat, the note you find at the beginning of Buried Echoes reveals a third party had visited the mine and saw signs of the Rudiger project. The worst part is that it was dated the 18th of June, 1991. There was one additional dated note at the airfield that I suspect is very much related to the Rudiger project. Within the main hangar, I believe that a scout for the project, most likely the security chief, had left behind a reconnaissance note about the airfield just before the project started. That note would be dated the 25th of September, 1982. This would put the timing of the Rudiger project to about 4 decades in the past compared to the events of Wintermute. This is assuming that my estimate of the year 2022 being the year of the first flare is correct. This would explain why the bunkers used to store the narrated notes for Signal Void appear to be very old. As of this point, I can almost guarantee that Seraphim was not responsible for what happened at the Langston mine. We now know that Rudiger's hard work provided him with the means to pay for everything needed for the project, and his ego is the reason why it was conducted. This would mean that just from a timing standpoint, Astrid had nothing to do with the project. The Rudiger project outbreak itself is now confirmed to be non-pathogenic, meaning there is no bacterial or viral outbreak occurring. Instead, it was entirely caused by the energy emitted by the machine, which affected the brains of everyone within range. Speaking of Astrid, now I want to look at the Perseverance Mills side of the theory and correct what I got wrong. To start, it is now 100% certain that the two individual outbreaks are completely separate. I'm now much more convinced that the Perseverance Mills outbreak is also non-pathogenic. I had previously pointed out the masked men at the end of episode 4, but they could be wearing it for any number of reasons. It could be instinct or lack of knowledge of the nature of the outbreak. I also believe it is to hide something Hinterland did not want us to see quite yet. With the knowledge that both outbreaks are definitely related to the brain, I think I pretty much nailed what was going on for each of them. However, I did not nail what caused either outbreak. So where's the connection? I have to admit, I didn't see the connection after finishing Buried Echoes. Even revisiting Wintermute episodes 1 through 4 didn't seem to offer much either. Then, I was informed about a possible connection during a livestream. I'll get to that after I finish up some final thoughts that are very important. So we know what Rudiger has done, we know why he did it, and we kind of know what he did after he left the Langston mine for the last time. His testament speech confirms he is definitely not done with his work. Fast forward about 40 years, where is Rudiger now? I don't believe he was too old during the Langston mine experiment, but his testament speech does say,
"But as the wheel of my life makes its final turn."
I take this as maybe he was getting on in years. The chances of him being alive in what could be his 80s, 90s, or even hundreds are relatively low. If he was smart enough, and I believe he most certainly was, Rudiger would have surrounded himself with people exactly like him. He would have also created a way to hide his work, most likely through an entity of some kind. Is this where Seraphim comes in? I don't know. It could be that Rudiger's legacy was carried on in some way either by a colleague or a whole company. Like the umbrella corporation of the Resident Evil franchise, not everyone within would possibly know the malicious intentions of those above them. If Seraphim was a continuation of Rudiger's work, Astrid most certainly wouldn't be involved in a malicious way. Instead, the dirty work would be conducted by Rudiger himself or his successors. In the event that Seraphim isn't involved at all, I think Rudiger did in fact live on and continued his work by himself or with the help of a colleague or colleagues. Seraphim would then be the response to whatever happened at Perseverance Mills. We know he created something that led to a catastrophic outbreak that destroyed the minds of the people involved with his project at the Langston mine. We also know that the Perseverance Mills outbreak shares a lot of similarities with the Rudiger project outbreak. Now I want to discuss the possible connection that was revealed to me during a livestream. Unfortunately, I don't know who to credit. If you notified me about what I'm going to talk about, please let me know so I can credit you. Did you notice this too? In 2 of the security chief logs and 2 of the interview transcripts, there is a lot of mention of water. Coincidentally, all of these notes are from when Patient 7 and the security chief are facing some of the severe symptoms of the outbreak. At this point, both of them are facing memory problems and struggling to keep their thoughts straight. They are recollecting moments in life to try to stay focused, but have trouble remembering everything correctly. Once water is mentioned, things become crystal clear. Suddenly, their thoughts are calming and descriptive, almost like water was the key to keeping their thoughts together. It's also consistent across most of the victims of this outbreak that we know of. The security chief says in one of her logs,
"To the sea. Small ships in deep water. My mother's voice."
as if she's trying to think of things that help her calm down and focus on her task. Even at the very end, where she knows she is going to die in the mine, she describes her memory with her lover at the waterfall in full detail despite her mind falling apart. The nail in the coffin for the connection between these 2 outbreaks may be the very peculiar drownings that are occurring at Perseverance Mills. In fact, they became so common that the people at the end of episode 4 thought that Astrid's boat was another quarantine breaker that had drowned and washed ashore. The consistent mention of water makes me believe that not only are both outbreaks connected, but also the same thing may be happening. If Rudiger or his work is still out there, there may be another machine plaguing Perseverance Mills. If Seraphim is involved and is just a continuation of Rudiger's work, the so-called cure may be their way of perfecting their work. Either way, the bright side of the first flare is that hopefully Rudiger's madness has been stopped for the entire world's sake. On one final note, I want to mention that I love how much Hinterland truly cares for the lore and world building of the Long Dark. They care for it so much that they hid the Rudiger project outbreak in plain sight. They did this well before they pulled the community on the idea of an expansion, the expansion's announcement, and expansion's release. There are a bunch of notes within the Black Rock region in Wintermute episode 4 that clearly share the story of someone suffering from the same symptoms that the miners suffered after being exposed to the machine. The story of Sam is told through the conspiracy theories, Lost Workers Note, and old substation work memo collectibles. He was very much suffering from severe memory problems, trouble focusing, and was dreaming about water. He even mentions that writing would help him focus. Sam was most certainly employed at the Langston mine in 1982 and worked under Rudiger. It even seems that he survived up to the first flare, meaning that not everyone that was affected by the machine suffered its fatal effects. Sam, and most likely a few others, survived with moderate brain damage. I want to thank @Olga from my Discord community for letting me know about these notes. I will definitely be making a video about these notes sometime soon. Sam deserves it. In conclusion, the brain-related symptoms and consistent involvement of water in both outbreaks are way too coincidental to not be related. Rudiger or his work is most likely at play in some way and is what is plaguing Perseverance Mills. Scientific experimentation often requires iteration on both the theorized outcome and the experiment itself. With time and more knowledge of whatever Rudiger was trying to accomplish, Perseverance Mills could be the perfect outcome that he was hoping for at the Langston mine. It is also possible that Seraphim could be an extension of his work, and the cure is a part of the plan. This all makes me wonder if there are more machines like this out in the world. A lot could happen in 4 decades. It leaves a lot of room for experimentation and a lot of iterations of the experiment. Of course, we won't know the full story and whether this theory is correct in any way for quite some time. For now, I would like to return to the not so speculative and normal lore content that I have planned for episodes 2, 3, and 4 of Wintermute. Along the way, expect more videos about specific locations and the people of Great Bear Island. Check out the description for the playlist links containing all the different lore series that I'm working on. In the meantime, beware of odd mentions of water within the expansion, Wintermute, or future The Long Dark Story content. If you know of any other odd mentions of water within the lore, do let me know in the comments. Also, if you are the person that told me about the consistent mention of water, please let me know so that I can give you credit. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it is the last one of this length that I make. If you want more lore videos for The Long Dark, please make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that I can keep making them.